Last month I tweeted that it might be a while before I get back to the IMDB Bottom 100 series, but now looking back this wasn't really that much longer than the wait time between the reviews in the past. Well, time to take another break from reviewing movies that might actually be good. This is me continuing my trek through the IMDB Bottom 100. So get ready to talk about number 85 on the lowest reviewed movies on IMDb, The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas. So what is this movie? Released in 2000, this is the prequel to the 1994 smash hit The Flintstones, a live-action adaptation of the classic Hanna-Barbera cartoon of the same name. It is also the first movie on this list that I've seen before. I'm not sure, but I might have even seen it in the theater as a kid. I vaguely remember it, but I was really little. I was too young to even remember the existence of the first one. For years afterwards, I didn't even know that there was a first one, but I know I definitely saw both movies on TV later into my childhood. But I didn't remember most of what happened in them, so just know that I have no nostalgia for any of them when I say, aren't these movies supposed to get worse as we go along? Don't get me wrong, Viva Rock Vegas is still not a very good movie. But given the 3 movies that I was able to see that rank lower on this list, this is a huge step up. This list really is just a popularity competition, or unpopularity competition. In my last video in the series, I said that The Love Guru was better than both other movies I've seen that ranked lower than them. I think it was probably ranked higher than them at least partially because, like Viva Rock Vegas, that was a movie that people had actually heard of. They were both released in the summer and had some kind of big draw that would ensure that people would know about it. For The Love Guru, it was Mike Myers. For The Flintstones, it was The Flintstones. That one was unquestionably meant to be a summer blockbuster. In contrast, how many people here have heard of The Hungover Games or Stan Helsing? Don't lie to me, and don't say you know about them from my reviews. Nobody watches my videos. I doubt anybody's even hearing this right now. Where was I? Oh yeah, the review. But first... So, I rewatched both of these movies in one weekend on HBO Max, and The Flintstones 1994 is actually a pretty decent movie. The first thing one would notice about it upon watching it is that it visually looks great. It absolutely nails the look of the series through its sets and prop design. It copies all of the modern Stone Age gadgets and visual gags using mostly practical effects. They also got an all-star cast including, you tell narrator.
John Goodman, Rick Moranis, Elizabeth Perkins, Rosie O'Donnell, Kyle MacLachlan, Halle Berry, Jonathan Winters, the BC-52s, and Elizabeth Taylor.
And they all, for the most part, look and sound like their cartoon counterparts. The plot revolves around Fred getting a promotion, not knowing that the higher-ups want to frame him for embezzling money. I guess it's bizarre that the plot of this movie that is aimed mostly toward children has a story that revolves around white-collar crime. Maybe that's why I didn't remember so much of it, because I didn't know squat about what embezzlement is. But other than that, it's not a bad story, and it has a few funny moments, a few groaners, but they're forgivable. It feels like a longer live-action episode of the cartoon, even down to the faithful recreation of the opening and closing sequences. This is a 3-star film, but it could have ranked higher if it knew what age demographic it was for. I mean, like I said, it seems to be aimed to children, but the plot deals with more adult things that kids probably won't know or care about. Either way, I don't see why it was so hated. Apparently, critics were calling it one of the worst of the year. It's not perfect, but if this was the worst movie of that year, then 1994 has got to be one of the best years for film ever, which I guess isn't too outlandish. But either way, I'm not too crazy about the trend of making animated properties into live action, but I think this is a good example of how to do it right. And now on to the main event. Time to talk about...
The Flintstones has been brought to you by Winston, America's best-selling, best-tasting filter cigarette. It still tastes good like a cigarette should.
Yeah, I'm doing that gimmick for this video too. Moving on. Anyway, The Flintstones 1994. Critics went big on it, audiences weren't big on it, but it made over $300 million, so 6 years later they put out another one. A prequel about how Fred and Wilma met. Although it kept the same director, since this was a prequel they had to cast younger actors, who also happened to be not as famous. For example, while Fred was played by John Goodman in the original, here he's played by some guy named Mark Addy who was in The Full Monty. Anyway, the movie made a little less than $300 million, couldn't even make back its budget. Whether that was because of the unknown cast or the 6-year wait between movies or dislike of the original is up for debate. So this movie isn't as good. I don't understand why some critics apparently thought this was an improvement. Spoiler alert, the original does not appear on the IMDb Bottom 100, but at the same time this one doesn't deserve to be on that list either. I'd only put it as slightly worse than the recent live-action Tom and Jerry, and I thought that one had plenty of merit despite being not that good. This one still has the same level of production design, and I guess the new cast is also pretty good. It took me a while to get used to Addie's different Fred Flintstone voice, but once I did, I think he was decent. Where the movie falters is in the writing. The humor has more of a cheesy sitcom feel to it. It rarely insults the audience, with a few exceptions, like one scene near the beginning where Stephen Baldwin's Barney is blown away by a giant dinosaur fart, but for everything else, it just seems kind of blah. As I've said before, it's about how Fred met Wilma. It's about their love affair leading up to their marriage. And in the middle of that, Wilma's rich suitor offers them a stay at his casino that he owns in the city of Rock Vegas, not at all subtle parallel to Las Vegas, so that he can try to break them up. See, he wants to marry her for her fortune so that he can pay off a debt he owes to the Rock Vegas gangsters. He's actually pretty similar to the villain in the first movie. He's a super rich guy who's involved in a bunch of illegal stuff and plays Fred without his knowledge alongside of a seductive female friend. Also, he's so powerful that he has a giant switch that controls whether or not Fred, and presumably no one else, wins or loses. Not just slot machines, also craps and stuff that isn't even the machine or anything. It's never explained how that works, especially with Stone Age technology. Why am I talking so much about a brief image that just exists to make him look more dramatic? Because it ruined what would have otherwise been a perfectly historically accurate movie. Also, like the original, Fred's character arc is learning that it doesn't matter how rich he is. So it has the same themes as the original, it's just that it's done in a more underwhelming way. Also notable is the inclusion of the Great Gazoo, a character who appeared in the last few episodes of the series and is often seen as the moment where they jump the shark. Why would you add that? Either way, the worst thing this movie has done is just being bland. Not insultingly bad, just forgettable and not that funny. I don't know what this movie is doing on this list, but it doesn't belong here. It's the kind of movie that kids will enjoy and the parents they drag them with won't be too upset about it. Did it deserve to bomb like this? Maybe, maybe not. Is it worse than something as truly broken as Stan Helsing? Definitely no.
Baby, my room is the G-spot. Call me Mr. Flintstone. I can make your bed rock.